Thank you for joining me. I'm Dr. Phyllis Books, and I'd like to tell you about a therapy I've developed. It's called Books Neural Therapy, and it could change your life. I say this because it's already changed the lives of thousands of people around the world, just like you. People who've had learning and behavior issues, people with chronic pain, people with who lose the ability to think clearly, people with head injuries. Does any of this sound familiar to you or to someone you love? If I were to tell you that things could actually change and it doesn't have to be that way, you might be a little reluctant to believe me. And I'd understand. When you've been told over and over that your situation cannot change, that you should learn to cope with the situation and accept things the way they are, well, after a while, you begin to believe it. And after a while, you stop looking for solutions. And after a while, you don't believe there are solutions. It doesn't have to be that way. Books Neural Therapy stimulates specific brain areas using a very light acupressure-like touch to various places on the head and the body. And this helps reorganize and synchronize the brain and the body. 8 out of 10 times, Books Neural Therapy succeeds. And when it does, lives change. Reading becomes easier, comprehension becomes easier, being able to express yourself, whether it's in writing or verbally, improves, physical coordination improves, chronic pain goes away. You get to have a life. And new possibilities are now open and available to you. I didn't always think this way. My interest in the brain and learning actually started back in my college days, where I was training to be a secondary school teacher at Michigan State University. And though I was trained to teach junior high and high school, I was asked to assist in a second grade classroom at a lab school. A lab school is where the children of the professors and the graduate students go. So we know that the children are highly motivated to learn. Their parents were both pretty educated. The children were well nourished and motivated. And yet what I discovered was some children didn't learn no matter what reading methods we tried. They could memorize the book, but they couldn't read it. That set me on a new quest. How do our brains work? And how do we communicate and get our communication across effectively? I found myself back in school, and I earned a master's degree in interpersonal communications and education. I started working then for big corporations as a communications consultant. And guess what I found? The same problem existed with adults as it did with children. There were some people that know in every arena that just didn't get the message, no matter what kind of strategies we used. Now that made me even more curious. And now I started thinking myself as a communications detective, like, where's the problem really? What's going on behind the scenes that everybody's missing? And so I ended up back in school again, because now I wanted the neurology and the biology of how we learn and where the communication breakdowns happen. So I had two choices at this time, because neuroscience or brain science, as we know now, didn't exist 30 years ago. So my choices were medical school or chiropractic school. I chose the latter, and I dedicated myself to unraveling the mysteries of the central nervous system. I learned about the many systems in the body and how each one depends on the others to work at peak efficiency. And when even one system, one of many systems, isn't working well, other systems are affected as well. I was beginning to understand that the problem was sometimes under the surface or under our awareness. The problem wasn't just in the symptoms. The problem was going on somewhere in the body, and putting the body and the brain together was how I was going to really help these children and adults. I immersed myself even deeper in the field of neuroscience and what we call brain science, or even neuroplasticity, because I was determined to crack the code on why the children and the adults weren't getting the message, why the message was sent here wasn't being delivered over here. And that's when the light bulb started going off. And that's when I started putting books neural therapy together. And the first time it actually worked, when I completed the whole series on my first patient, I was in awe. It was a miracle to me. And the patient felt exactly the same way. And now, 20 or 30 years later, I feel that same sense of awe every day I go to work, because I think I have the best job in the world, because people's lives change before my very eyes. And I get story years afterwards on how people's lives continue to change. Books Neural Therapy has already helped thousands of people around the world, and it could help you. If you would like to become a patient of Books Neural Therapy, select the Become a Patient button. If you would like to see if you qualify to become a Books Neural Therapy practitioner, please select the Practitioner button. Wherever you are in the process, I'm happy to meet you there. I would like this work to go to every child and every adult in every part of the world. So I'm here. Please call me, please select a button, please take the next step. I'm here for you.
So many people say that it's not possible, and I don't think it's fair to the children, even to the older people who have dyslexia, who at some point want to get rid of that feeling of not being adequate, not having enough, for them to go through the therapy as well and to be able to come out on the other side and have all of that old stuff just disappear. It melts away. And honestly, as soon as Jonathan started the transition, we set up what was the new normals. New normal was he could read 3 times longer. The new normal was he wrote his papers by himself. The new normal was I didn't have so much correction to do when he finally let me read them. It was this whole amazing shift and change that people told us was not possible, and I'm glad we didn't listen. I am so happy we did not. And a lot of this is after the therapy, which is awesome. The therapy takes a certain amount of time, and it is fairly rigid on the amount of time it takes to clear the blocks, to have everything start flowing again. But I think once it does start flowing, it's not just the breathing. It turns into other things, the mind, the body, and the spirit. I think all three become enlivened and are able to work together and mesh, and amazing things come from what the abilities of these people that go from being held back to no limits. It's fabulous.
Awesome. So as a reading specialist and a classroom teacher, I really believe that the key to understanding and helping these kids with learning differences is to integrate Books Neural Therapy with the learning strategies. And if you're considering studying Books Neural Therapy, I believe that it will be the most important thing that you can do for all these kids.